I speak this not for glory, nor redemption. There is none of either left. This is not a report. It is a confession, a warning, a final sound cast into the abyss. Before the silence swallows me whole, it has been, I do not know how long since. Arcturan Theta ceased transmitting. Time dilates here. Vox static drips like oil in my mind. My autosenses record conflicting chronostamps. My eyes burn with images I know were never real, and yet I remember them with a clarity that defies truth. Landed on Tenebris Vi under clear orders. Classification: Gamma-level quarantine world. Forbiddens, but not forgotten. The Ordo Malleus had petitioned clearance. A xenoarchaeological anomaly. That was the wording. An anomaly. They did not tell us about the fog. Not ... Not at first. The initial deployment went as planned. Drop pods secured the outer ruins. Vox chatter was stable for 13 standard hours. Our librarian, Brother Arcton, reported psychic null readings so profound he began to bleed from the eyes during meditation. He dismissed it as strain. We should not have allowed him to dismiss it. The air on Tenebris Vi is thick wet with vapor, but not water. It clings to ceramite and soul alike. The fog is not natural. It does not drift. It coils, follows, watches. We thought it a chemical quirk. Perhaps the afterbirth of a long-dead war. But as the sun fell behind the jagged monoliths, and the structures cast shadows that bent the wrong way, something else began, something deeper. One by one, the scouts stopped reporting. Auspex returned only static and low-frequency warbles, like submerged heartbeats. We found Brother Corvan's locator beacon still transmitting from within his shattered armor. But the armor was empty. The seal locks hadn't been broken. There was no blood, just ... condensation, thick as arterial fluid. It dripped from the gorget. It smelled of rust and old, wet stone. I remember Corvan, his laughter in the barracks, his blade work during the Maelstrom Purge. But now, when I try to conjure his face, it is gone, erased, as if something reached into my gene memory and scoured it clean. Apothecary. Marnix says our cortex implants are stable, but I no longer trust what my mind reports. I no longer trust what my eyes see. There are sounds in the fog, shapes that move without light, doors that open in structures that have no walls. I do not dream anymore, but I still hear them when I sleep. We were 33 at deployment. I counted 29 on the first night, then 24. Then, long pause, I stopped counting. The Codex teaches us that duty is eternal, that fear is a weapon of the enemy. But what walks the shrouded? Ruins of Tenebris Vi is no enemy we are forged to face. It does not fight. It waits. It feeds. It is watching even now. I can feel it in the Vox static, humming like a false prayer. They sent us here to silence a whisper, but we only made it scream. The Emperor's chosen are not easily broken. We are sons of Gilliman crafted from Perm. Pure gene seed, forged in war zones where lesser warriors burn. The third company, my company, bore the scars of the Maelstrom Purge and the ash of Caliprimus in our lungs. We endured the silence of the Obsidian Rift, where void sirens sang madness into the hulls of our dropships, and we did not flinch. We do not speak of fear. Not aloud. Tenebris Vi changed that. Our mission was sanctioned by Ordo Malleus Command, though. We never met the Inquisitor who authored the orders. A dead world, quarantined for 2 centuries, classified as uninhabitable due to tectonic instability and lingering atmospheric corruption. The Ordo flagged anomalous Vox signals repeating. Prayer fragments from an abandoned research station. They said it was likely an echo, a glitch. They always say that. Our objectives were clear. Secure the anomaly, extract data cores, map any surviving infrastructure, and report back for void retrieval. No longer than 30 hours on the surface. No prolonged contact. No structural excavation. We deployed from Rex Ultima at 0400 shipboard time. Our boots touched ash before the sun had cleared the horizon, though later I would wonder if the sun ever truly rose over that planet. The light was pale and watery, and did not cast true shadows. The fog was already waiting for us, coiled thick across the broken plains. Our drop site, 5 clicks east of the primary hive ruin, was stable. Scouts secured a perimeter. Our specs read nothing. No heat, no motion, no threat. And yet, I knew. I knew even then something watched us from within that fog. The land itself resisted. Our servitor's gyroscopes failed mid-deployment. Techmarine Zoriel muttered of magnetic flux lines, behaving erratically, refusing correction. The terrain was like walking across the ribs of a buried, god-jagged black ridges of scorched ferrocrete and rust-slicked metal, rising in unnatural patterns. The earth groaned beneath our treads, and the fog, it never lifted. It wasn't mist. It was thicker, colder. It clung to our armor, crawled over our optics, condensed on our respirators in ways I've never seen outside of void ruptures. Even our chem seals couldn't keep it out. I tasted it on the back of my tongue copper. And decay. Apothecary Marnix logged it as an atmospheric contaminant, possibly fungal, possibly artificial. He spoke without emotion. We all did. But I saw the way his hands trembled when he cleaned his tools. We established forward position near the remnants of a collapsed sky bridge. I assigned Brother Valen and his recon unit to flank the southern ruins. He reported movement in the fog. I dismissed it. Thought it nerves, shadows, or ghosts. But later he told me something else. During a brief rest cycle, he said he had closed his eyes and saw his own death waiting for him. Face down in the ash, his chest plate peeled open like a flower. He was not prone to visions. We had no librarian in that squad. I ordered a scan. FOR warp contamination. It returned negative. We began losing time after that. Just seconds at first, then minutes. I would blink and realize an hour had passed. Squad formations shifted, sometimes without order. Vox commands echoed before I spoke them. At one point, Brother Rennick swore he received a direct order from me to advance, while I stood beside him and had said nothing. Tenebra's VI does not want to be mapped. The horizon bends. Landmarks change. Our cartography systems failed 3 times in 24 hours. Each time, the logs were overwritten with the same coordinate tag, Arkenhold Prime. The collapsed hive. It stood on the edge of a fault line, fractured down the middle like a split skull. Yet thermal imaging showed internal power still active. Not in the main spires, but deep below the ruins. Something beneath. That was when we heard it. A new signal, buried beneath Vox static. Faint, but persistent. Not a voice, not words, just breathing, rhythmic, patient. As if something was waiting for us to arrive. The unraveling did not come with fanfare. There was no enemy charge, no Vox-screamed engagement report. It began as a whisper beneath the surface of reality. Subtle shifts, too small to log, but too wrong to ignore. I first noticed it in the ruins near the spire's base growths, where no life should be. Stalks of pale, eyeless fungal matter emerging from between ferrocrete slabs, pulsing gently, like gill sacks in stale water. When approached, they vibrated, as if sensing our presence. One of them burst when Brother Corvain stepped too near, releasing a hiss that silenced our auspex for a full minute. No biological signature, no warp trace. Nothing but absence. The machine spirits grew restless next. Zoriel's diagnostic rites failed to appease them. Our Auspex scanners began feeding inverted topography mapping structures that didn't exist, or perhaps hadn't existed yet. Bolter systems rejected. Target confirmations. Servo skulls spun in reverse, circling us like carrion birds. I watched a picked feed repeat itself before the action occurred. Zoriel began reciting maintenance prayers backwards, unconsciously. Before collapsing from a cortical overload, the dreams followed. Identical dreams. Every one of us. An immense form beneath the ash, buried half in rusted earth, breathing the fog into the world like a grave exhales rot. No face, no skin. Only mouths, stitched shut with iron. It was not speaking, but I heard it. Felt it. A psychic pressure, not of the warp, but of something older. Something that remembered the warp being born. Arcton grew worse. He claimed the zit. Silence was not silence at all, but a scream so vast it echoed backwards through time. He tried to map the psychic terrain, whatever lies beyond our comprehension, but it fought back. He bled from the eyes, the mouth, the palms. There is a second sky, he whispered, beneath the first, and it watches. Then we lost Veland's unit. His scouts had gone to secure the southern chasm and never returned. One came back. Just one. His helmet was gone, his face unrecognizable, stretched and blistered, eyes boiled white. His armor had crumpled inward, ribs shattered beneath ceramite that had folded like wet cloth. He was still breathing. Barely. We pulled the Vox record from his gorget. It played 6 seconds of static. Then it fed. It remembered. Apothecary Marnix dissected Brother Alarix after a fall during petrol simple trauma, no external corruption. But the gene seed he recovered was black, hardened, dead before extraction. Marnix looked at me and said only, "The seed remembers fear." I said nothing. What could I say? Brother Saurian removed his helm mid-sweep, claimed it was whispering. False orders. He said my voice was coming from behind his eyes. He spoke a tongue none of us recognized, harsh, wet, full of clicks and reversed syllables, before his skull split open like an overripe fruit. Arcton staggered, screaming, as if he had felt it happen through the ether. And then I saw Rennick. Again, he was at the weapons locker, calm, silent, cleaning his bolter like always. The same pattern, the same rhythm, 3 strokes, pause, reload, check. But I had seen Rennick die the day before, his body torn apart by a structural collapse in the sublevel. His name was in the death roll. I had spoken the rites myself, and yet there he was, still breathing, still here. I called out to him. He looked up. His eyes were full of fog. That was the moment the sun blinked. I was standing watch when it happened. The sky gray, hollow split for just a moment, and a second sun looked down on us. Not yellow, not warm. It pulsed, mechanical, red, and watching. I felt my thoughts recoil, scatter like prey. My Vox died in my ear. Screens cracked across the channel. Weapons fire. Shouting then nothing. Only the fog, and the breathing beneath it. We lost contact with the Rex Ultima not long after the false sun revealed itself. At first, it was just static, harmless, explainable. Then came the distortion. Vox. Commands looped, delayed, or returned in unfamiliar voices. One sounded like Marnix, but he was already dead. When we tried to boost signal through our relay packs, the machine spirits literally howled through our helm speakers, in a pitch that caused nosebleeds in 3 of us. After that, we sealed the Vox and declared the company alone. No uplink, no orbital overwatch, no retrieval beacon. We were severed. The ruins grew stranger the deeper we pressed into Arcanold's carcass. At first, it was just wrong angle support struts intersecting in impossible tessellations, hallways that bent back into themselves. Then we found the chamber. It wasn't imperial or human. It was buried under what had once been a manufactorum. Dome. The stone was too smooth, carved in layered strata like fossilized glass. Glyphs etched into the walls glowed faintly, not painted, but alive, twitching like nerves under a microscope. Brother Tyrell reached out to touch one. He convulsed mid-step, blood streaming from his ears. His heart imploded before we could retrieve his genocide. There was no mark on his armor. The glyph pulsed once, then dimmed. Arc 10. What remained of him said only, "We stand in a place where death was born." I told him to be silent. He laughed, and kept laughing long after his voice box collapsed. We lost 4 more in the subchambers. One simply vanished. Another was found curled in a fetal position, armor fused to flesh, mumbling, "I have remembered too much." The others shot each other clean bolter work, perfect patterns, no hesitation. One recorded his kill confirmation log. He stated, they were not who they claimed to be. Their eyes were glass. Their bones hummed. We began stripping our dead. Without ceremony, no rites, no fire. The fog would not permit fire. It choked flames, smothered heat. Even our plasma torches flickered and died. We started marking our armor with kill tallies, not for the enemy, but for ourselves. Each time we blinked, we counted who was still breathing. We trusted nothing. And then we saw them. Not fully, not at first. They shimmered like heat ghosts, tall, slender things, their forms stitched with mirrored plates, limbs jointed wrong. Not Necron, not pure, something in between. Their movement was too fast, too deliberate. Their presence bent our auspex back against itself. Some bore symbols we could not match, sigils woven into their chassis like branding. Some walked silently through the walls. One of them turned to look at me. Not with eyes. There were no eyes. Just a mask of surgical metal, split by an opening like a mouth, not made for speech. Within, I saw something move. Something fluid and molten. A light that wasn't light. A hunger. C single quotes 10. I do not know if it was a shard or something worse, but the fog grew thicker around it. The others vanished when it appeared, vanished into walls, into thought, into ash. The fog pulsed. Our minds screamed. I felt my implants reboot without cause. The machine spirits in my armor wept. That is the only word I have. They wept. The librarian tried to make contact. He stretched out his mind and was torn apart in silence, not even a scream. His armor was intact. His soul was gone. It was then. I understood. We were not simply being hunted. We were being digested. By the 3rd cycle. If it was truly the 3rd, our minds began to bleed at the edges. Time faltered. We lost track of days. Wounds opened in places we did not remember being struck. Bolters jammed with ammo we had not loaded. I reviewed helm-cam footage and saw myself issuing orders I never gave. The timestamps disagreed. Some read dates from centuries prior. Others had no numbers at all, only a blinking sigil, circular and writhing, like a snake eating time. The psychers went first. After Arcton's mind was consumed, Brother Epistolary Holly attempted to shield us with a psychic null shroud. It held for precisely 21 seconds. Then he burst into laughter, not his voice, not any human voice, and began speaking in a stuttering binary tone. The Vox picked up multiple frequencies from his helm, overlapping with our previous transmissions. We heard our own screams being played before they happened. We should have left, but the fog would not allow it. We found it in the vault beneath Spire Mortis, buried under strata of alloyed obsidian and pale metal etched with crystalline veins. It was not built. It was grown. Its geometry refused to stay. Still, some said it was a tomb. Others called it a prison. One of the surviving Technoranes, called it an echo stabilizer, a phrase I had never encountered in any Mechanicus lexicon. The doors were open, not broken, not forced, open, as if from within. Inside, the air tasted wrong, not stale, but anticipatory, as if the chamber itself awaited our breath to begin. Gravity worked. Our boots slipped across shifting angles that hadn't been there seconds before. We saw figures in the walls, translucent silhouettes of other Astartes, arms raised in warning or prayer. One reached out toward me. My auspex identified it as myself. The vault's center held the relic, or perhaps the heart, a construct of hovering stone and impossible machinery, suspended in a shaft of anti-light. It hummed at the edge of hearing light. A choir underwater. No one could touch it. One of us tried. His fingers liquefied mid-reach. Another knelt and began to pray, not to the Emperor, but to something else. We dragged him back. He bit off his own tongue and died smiling. Time shattered. Around us, we'd find ourselves back at camp without walking. Injuries would vanish or reappear in new configurations. At one point, I stood watch over Marnix's remains, only to find him beside me, alive but younger. He looked at me and said, "You haven't died yet. That's not supposed to happen." Ghosts followed us then, not shadows clear, speaking echoes of the dead. Rennick, Arcton, even Tyrell. They begged us to leave, or to stay. Their messages conflicted, layered like broken hololiths. I began to see my own death, again and again, from different angles. One vision showed me kneeling before the relic. Another showed me burning with no fire. Another, I was, speaking to a crowd of mirrored men, who all bore my face. Trust shattered. Brothers turned on one another. Zoriel accused two of implant tampering. He claimed they had been rewired during sleep. We found his remains days later, fused with his servo harness, eyes still blinking in terrified code. Halle tried to detonate the relic. We stopped him. He screamed for a full hour, still alive, even after his chest was torn open. He kept screaming after we removed his Vox-unit. No one spoke of loyalty. No one quoted the Codex. The litanies turned sour in our throats. Faith cracked. We had come to reclaim a ruin. Instead, we had uncovered a wound, one the galaxy itself had tried to forget. We never truly breached the vault. We were allowed in. The entity we still dared not name it had been watching, breathing through the fog, shaping the perimeter of our sanity like a potter's wheel. The structure was not containment. It was a lens, a focus. What we mistook for ruins were organs. Arkenhold Hive was not a city. It was a ribcage, and it had begun to inhale. On the final day, if such a word holds meaning here, the veil tore. It started as a pressure behind the eyes, the sense that someone was standing inside your skull. I remember vomiting black bile into my helm. The floor trembled not with force, but intention. We heard voices in reverse, phrases from our own childhoods, prayers we had never learned, orders we hadn't yet received. The vault's walls peeled open like flesh, exposing a descending chasm of mirrored obsidian that reflected only our corpses. The relic's anti-light flared, pulsing like a heart each throb, releasing waves of memory, not our own. We watched. Entire lives flash across our vision, millennia of servitude, extinction, resurrection, war, suns dying, galaxies unraveling. The sense of scale was unbearable. I felt my body break from within, bones screaming, implants spasming. My gene seed convulsed. I thought I would split in two. Brother Sorov was the first to speak in its voice. His lips did not move. His armor hung on him like rotted silk. But we heard him in every channel, every cortex node. I was here when your kind crawled. I fed on stars while your emperor still bled. Then he raised his bolter, and turned it on himself. The bolt detonated inside his mouth, but the voice continued, "God, we fought shadows after that. Mirrored silhouettes of ourselves, exact in form, wrong in movement. One turned to me and screamed my name in reverse, before lunging. I fired, but my bolt passed through empty air. Others were not so lucky. Brother Sergeant Cale was torn apart. By a version of himself, its skin flayed into wings. Arcton, no. The thing wearing Arcton's armor laughed as he walked backward into the relic's glow, vanishing. We tried to flee. The corridor shifted. We found Marnix again, standing in the same position we'd left him 4 days ago, still dying, still mouthing the same words. It's already inside. Then the fog began to burn, not with fire, with memory. Our thoughts combusted. Every brother started reliving their worst moment failure in battle, cowardice, shame. One screamed for his mother. Another clawed off his helm, weeping. I was never worthy. I saw my chapter master's death again. Only this time, I was the one who had pulled the trigger. It manipulated more than memory. It rewrote us. Brother Halvik's limbs elongated, mid-run bone cracking, armor splitting, as if something inside him wanted to be free. His voice deepened until it wasn't a voice at all, just the thunder of tectonic plates grinding. We destroyed him. We had to. But the pieces still moved after in the end. There were 3 of us. Then 2. Then just me. I remember looking up toward the vault as the fog retreated inward, like a tide of thought returning to its master. And there it stood, taller than understanding, thin as hunger, its skin a sheath of mirrored souls, writhing in infinite scream. It did not move. It did not need to it, and me it whispered, not with sound, but with recollection. I saw every battle I'd fought, but twisted. My victories were its feasts, my survival, its plan. I was never a warrior. I was a seed, and I had bloomed. I do not remember escaping. Only the scream. That soundless scream like creation itself. Flinching, I awoke in the dust, days or hours later, alone. No fog, no comrades, only silence. And the vault, now sealed once more, but changed, waiting. I do not know how I lived. Perhaps I never did. Perhaps I am still there, still dreaming, still feeding. If you are hearing this, then the vault is still sealed. Or it has opened again. I am Brother Codicir Verine of the 3rd Company, Scions of Gilliman. Formerly, the gene seed in my chest no longer pulses in time with the hymns of the apothecarian. I suspect it has turned black, like the others. I have not removed it. I dare not look. There is no extraction coming. There never was. We were not sent to secure Arkenhold Hive. We were sent to bury it in silence. Our mission was a lie draped in protocol, an ancient quarantine rewrapped as deployment. The Inquisition knew. Perhaps even the chapter. We were weapons aimed downward. Now I am the last. I have sealed my armor with 3 purity locks. I do not sleep. When I do, I dream others' dreams. I speak in tongues I have not learned. I taste metal in my thoughts. They do not burn the fog, because the fog remembers. It carries the shape of minds long extinguished. Even now I can feel it whispering at the edge of my sight, coiling through cracks in memory, feeding on guilt, on fear. It is patient. It is infinite. It wears us. The relic was not a relic. It was a wound, a fracture in time and will, a shard of something older than the warp, not Can, not Necron, something before, something that still dreams beneath the waking world. And we fed it. I watched my brothers die, unravel, change. Some begged for death. Some embraced what they became. There was no purity left to preserve. Only function, only containment. I failed them. I did not contain it. But I remember. I made this record not to be retrieved, but to survive, even as I erode, even as it learns to mimic me more completely. I feel it now, curling beneath my tongue, shaping my voice. Soon I will speak not as Varen, but as it doth so hear this. Ifef Arkenhold signals again, do not answer, do not investigate, do not pray, dot burn the planet. Seal the system, scorch the void, because it is still there, and it is still hungry.